Hello guys and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about Tatu, the Fire Pixie. Tatu is a 2A monster that is primarily used in Kairos Dungeon. You can obtain this unit through Unknown Scrolls, Secret Dungeons, or the Magic Shop. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at her, her builds, the way you rune her, her usage, just everything that you're going to need to know as a new player or someone who's returning to the game and you're like, what is with 2As? What is a 2A? So we're going to be looking at that. So the first thing we do before we look at her runes and all that is we look through her skills, and I explain the skills to you in case you as a new player might have trouble understanding this. So her skill 1, which is this right down here, we'll read it out loud and then I'll summarize it pretty much. Attacks the enemy with an energy ball. The attack has a 75% chance of increasing the chance to land a glancing hit, the enemy's chance to land a glancing hit, and inflicting continuous damage for 2 turns each. So the glancing hit will just, if she does land it, which for where you're using her she probably won't, but if she does, glancing hits will pretty much prevent the enemy from landing critical hits, debuffs if the enemy's attack that they're using lands debuffs, and again just reduce damage, just all that stuff. I'll have a thing on screen to show you exactly what it does. And continuous damage, or aka dots, will tick the enemy or deal damage for 5% of the enemy's max health every time they take a turn. So this is a pretty good skill if you think about it, but for, again, we're using her not too much in the sense that she's just might not land it too often. So her skill 2 is essentially just another dot or continuous damage debuff. I don't know if I've already expressed this, but throughout the video I will be saying dot or continuous damage, but they both mean the same thing. Dot is damage over time, and continuous damage is continuous. It's in the name. It's damage that continues to hurt the enemy. And in the skill 3, I put it as an AoE dot explode. So attacks all enemies to inflict damage. In addition, blows up the continuous damage granted on each target to inflict damage that's equivalent to the target's continuous damage. So here's the thing. I understand how some new players may have a hard time understanding this, especially since the word damage and continuous damage is literally, like, you can see it in each line of the skill, right? Inflicting damage based on the continuous damage to inflict damage based on the continuous. It's just like, what are you saying? It's like, it's such a tongue twister. So I'm going to explain the skill 3 to some of you who might be new to the game, just to help you understand it. Hopefully I'm not going to make it more complicated than it already is. So we already talked about what dots do. Dots, just to recap, deal 5% of the enemy's max HP when they are present on the enemy. So when the enemy does have this debuff, they will take 5% of their max health every turn until it disappears. There are some exceptions to this, like the unit Sath, the Fire Grim Reaper. When his 2A, his passive specifically states that he doubles the damage of continuous damage. So that is an exception. And you also have to understand another thing, which is debuff durations. Debuff durations, this continuous damage, as long as they're present on the enemy, they will tick or deal damage based off of the 5%, right? Or 10% based off of whether or not you have Sath. We'll stick with 5% for now. And it will continue to do this until it disappears. So you saw her skill 1, it places it for 2 times. So if the dot is there, it deals 5% one turn, and then you have to wait for the enemy to go around and take their next turn for it to deal another 5%. So the only way this debuff triggers or activates is when the enemy takes their turn. So I have an example here. I have one example that's kind of not complicated, but I'll have it on screen. That's all you need to know. So for example, the enemy has 3 dots, or 3 continuous damage debuffs. Each of them are going to be present for 2 turns. Typically, that would do 15% of the enemy's max HP per turn for 2 turns, totaling 30% of the enemy's max HP. But Tatu will detonate these, causing them to do the damage that they would do over all of those turns in one attack. Meaning that her attack, when she uses her skill 3, will deal 30% of the enemy's max HP in one sitting, in one go. This is very helpful when you consider, like, let's say you go into the Kairos dungeon, the Giant's floor, and you come in and you have all these units that are placing tons and tons of dots. You place like 5 dot debuffs on the Kairos on the dungeon boss, and you have Sath there, so he's doing 10%, right? You would have to wait 2 turns for the boss to just kill himself, right? Or to faint himself, right? Because that would do 50% of the enemy's max HP every turn, which means you just have to live through this boss taking 2 of his turns. But this can be very risky, and not only that, it could be very slow, because you have to wait for the boss to take his turn, which the boss can be very slow. But not only that, you have to allow the boss to do his attacks and counterattack and everything. But with Tatu present, if Tatu moves and she does her skill 3, she'll just immediately like annihilate the boss. The boss loses all of his health in one sitting. So another example I have is, and this is really easy, just in case you for some reason still don't have it down, the enemy has 1 dot debuff, or 1 continuous damage debuff that lasts 2 turns. Typically, this would do 5% of the enemy's max HP over the course of 2 turns. Over the course of 2 turns, which would mean the boss will take 10% max HP total, right? So 5% on the first turn, and then you wait for their second turn, and they'll deal another 5%, totaling 10%. Tatu's skill 3 will instantly just deal the 10%. So basically, it's just like it's like those passes you get at Disney. It's like you don't have to wait in line, right? You don't have to wait for the debuffs to activate. She activates them for you. Obviously, the continuous damage will disappear after you use the skill, and perfect, right? Another thing to note is that, remember, this is AoE. So if you have a ton of units that do dots, and it does dots to all enemies, if she moves and all the enemies have dots, so like the waves have dots, the whole wave will die, right? Or they'll take damage according to the number of dots, right? So this is a really big thing when you think about it. It's a good, it's obvious to why she's in some of these beginner teams or endgame teams. So now that we figured out what her skills do and all that, we're going to look at her stats. So after you look at a monster, you should be able to determine a couple stats the monster can use, and like why would they need them, right? Most monsters tend to have 4 stats that they could use. As of lately, the last few videos that we've done, the monsters that we've done have only ever needed 2 or 3. Tatu is no exception to that. She only needs 2 stats. So the first stat she's going to need is HP, and the second one she's going to need is speed. Now, I'll express or explain the one for speed later, but let's talk about the HP. So for HP, she's going to need a minimum of the bonus, the green number right here, of plus 20,000 HP. Now, when you see the way we rune her later, you're going to realize that this is going to be very, very easy for you, regardless if you're new or later in the game, obviously. The reason she's going to need at least a minimum of 20,000 HP is because she is a fire attribute. You will be using her in the Giant's floor. She needs to be able to take a lot of punishment, because she's going to get aggroed. She's going to be the one who's most likely going to get attacked in the waves, and especially leading up to the boss. And even if she just does get attacked, even like every once in a while, she's going to take increased damage due to her disadvantage. So she needs to be able to take heavy hits and survive. Now, the second stat that I said that she needs is speed, but she doesn't need to be fast. You just need to speed tune her. Now, for anyone who's not aware of what speed tuning is, I think the easiest way to explain this is that you specifically specifically tune or give them a specific amount of speed so they take turns in a specific order. So, for example, I would speed tune her slow because I want her to move fast. It is specifically giving her a certain amount of stats. So, speed tuning is specifically giving them a certain amount of speed. So the way you'd speed tune her is to be slow. But one thing I've noticed is that if you just build her on no speed, there is the chance that she is getting outsped by the enemy wave. And she can be outsped by the enemy wave. I've gotten to experience that. And she will just get frozen sometimes. She'll get stunned, which makes your runs longer and it makes it even more dangerous. So I gave her a minimum of plus 40. That's what I've literally had to mess with her on this. Like, so build her plus 40 speed at the minimum. I think this will help you outspeed the wave, but at least still stay slower than the rest of the team. You need to have, for the team you would be using her, the Saf Tatu team, Saf would have to be the fastest, then the Melia, then her. She needs to be slower than everyone else, but she needs to be faster than the enemy. So she needs to be tuned in a specific way, aka speed tune. There are people who explain this type of stuff a little bit better, like speed tuning. Like, you can look up what speed tuning is. They would explain it much better than I would. Obviously I'm stuttering when it comes to that stuff. But that's really all she needs. Some people would say that you could go accuracy on her, and I wouldn't disagree. You could go defense. I wouldn't disagree. But HP and speed are the really, really important things. Accuracy, I don't think it's too important. And defense, I mean, again, not that of an important thing. But let's go to the runes. So her runes need to, for the early game, you would go triple energy. So these runes right here, these would help you meet these HP requirements, which shouldn't be that hard at all. And you would go triple HP. So HP percent in slot 2, HP percent in slot 4, and HP percent in slot 5. Or 6, my apologies. So 2, 4, and 6 need to be triple HP. She doesn't need to be that fast. You could build her triple HP and get some of the speed in the substats. But you don't want her to be too fast. Her base speed is pretty high. So, yeah. But you would go triple energy early game. And then later on, when you get to the mid game, you would switch her to double energy shield like I have here. Reason being is because since you're building her on such high HP, that shield rune is going to give you guys so many shields. Or so much of a shield. So the ally shield, or when you get 2 of these shield runes, you give an ally shield for 3 turns, and it's all allies. A shield for 3 turns, which is 15% of the HP. You can see I have a decent chunk of HP on her. She's going to give a ton of shield, which is going to make the runs much more safe. I've seen other people go violent energy, violent will, violent whatever. Or some people have gone double will to make it safe. I think double energy shield has definitely been working for me. My runs are pretty fast. Not that bad. And again, she's going to stick to the triple HP. I don't think there will really be ever any reason to go like speed HP or anything like that, unless your other units are just so incredibly fast. And then her artifacts, you would go HP on those as well. For obvious reasons, you could go defense. I don't think that would be a bad idea at all. I mean, that would definitely help with some other areas. But if it really doesn't matter, HP or defense, I think HP is obviously better. It's to help with the shields. And then, yeah. In fact, what I want to do, and I never did this in the other videos, is I kind of wanted to look at the statistics to see what other people have ruined their tattoos. So, obviously, for the artifacts, majority of people went HP. Some people went defense. The only reason I can imagine some people went attack is because of the substats or whatever in those artifacts. I can't imagine why they would go attack on for any other reasons. Double will shield. You see a lot of double wills. So will runes for any new players are these things right here. It grants you immunity for 1 turn and for every set of will you have on there. So having 2 sets of will, or you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 runes of will runes on them would grant you 2 turns of immunity, which I guess for some people it's just a safety net so she doesn't get stunned or whatever. To me, I don't really see. I mean, I get what's happening, but like, I wouldn't do it. I could see how it helps though. I'm not judging it at all. And then the shield gives you shield runes, or shield runes will give you a shield that will help you take damage. Fight runes to help with attack. I kind of see it, I guess. Not really. I guess to help with like the Lucian. Violent runes will help allow you to take another turn. Other than that, it's whatever, right? So slot 2, a majority of people want HP. Some people want speed. I already explained the speed. She doesn't need to be too fast. You could totally get it in the substats, but I'll let people do what they want to. Defense, I don't see it. Again, I guess people are just trying to make her tanky, but you would want the HP over the defense, because in the Giants floor, you can get defense broken really easy, and then that defense isn't going to really mean anything compared to the HP. You can't really break someone's HP, you just have to actually just do damage. But the defense, you could break the defense and then just do big damage. And if you have all this defense, you're gonna, and you get defense broken, you're literally getting like your defense split in half, and it means nothing, right? At least that's how I'm saying it. HP defense, HP is the primary one that people are going for. HP defense, accuracy, I could see the accuracy. I myself like to put slot 6 accuracy runes on some of my monsters because I want them to land debuffs. And then let's go to suggested. 24k totally works. They have accuracy runes. But yeah, you just want tons of HP. She has nothing, bro. Speed. Yeah, also plus 15 your runes, please. That's not that great. One more. We'll look at one more. This is pretty decent. Double will, fight runes. Again, I could see why you would do it. I wouldn't do it. Sorry, I was reading the review. But let's talk about the usage. So the usage, you're using her in dot teams. That's it. I mean, you're not using her in PvP. You can. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want in this game. You could bring 4 Tatus, all 2A, all fully ruined, into PvP. Are you going to win? Probably. Probably not. But it's all up to you. But I'm telling you where you would use her. You would use her in PvE. You're not using her in guild content efficiently. You would use her in places like the Giants floor. She's using the Sath, Tatu, Melia, Lucian team. You could also just change out Lucian for Fraun or Veramos. They work completely fine. You can use her in places like Steel Fortress, Punisher's Crypt. With the Sath Tatu team, you could take her into TOA. And I'm about to say it again, with the Sath Tatu team. The thing you're going to notice is that she's only really efficient in dot teams. Damage enemies that place tons of dots, or units that place tons of dots, they'll all place dots, and then she comes in and she detonates them, dealing massive damage, which is going to help with super fast clear times and all that stuff. But out of those teams, like, she's really not that useful. I mean, she places a glancing on her first skill, but so do all the other pixies. Other than that, it's just a continuous damage debuff. This is a continuous damage debuff, and this does damage. You could also build her Despair, because this does do damage, but I want to build her Despair, right? But yes, so use her in Kairos, use her in Trial of Ascension. You wouldn't really be using her out of that, though. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all we have to talk about with Tatu the Fire Pixie. She's a really simple unit, and yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. I thank you guys for watching the video. I hoped I've helped you guys in some way, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.